All right. So let's do it. Let's see. What?
Yes.
So the one I sent you last time was an Orthodox
synagogue. Before we get started on that, though, that I've been wanting to ask you for the longest.
All right, no problem. Go ahead.
Okay. Do do the Jews believe in casting out demons and stuff like that, or how do they go about casting out a demon?
They don't believe in that. The average Jew doesn't. Throughout Jewish history, there are some Jews who are big into Kabbalah that do something similar, but it's very rare. It's rare. It's called taking out the evil eye. What?
What is Kabbalah?
So Kabbalah is modern day Jewish mysticism. It's called practical Kabbalah. That's what's typically called it. Judaism is mystical without Kabbalah, but Lurianic Kabbalah is modern day Jewish mysticism, like what they study in the Kabbalah Center.
Oh wow, that's wild.
I'm not a fan of it. I just think that it's secondary. I don't even believe that it's true.
Man, because I haven't had some, as a Christian, I've had some experience like throughout my Christian walk, but in these last 6 months, I have seen more demon manifestations than I have ever before, and I'm like, man, that is just it is wild, man. I seen a lot of things, and there's just some supernatural things that at first I didn't believe as well, but there's just some things that these entities know, and I'm like, there's no way they know that unless they are operating under the spiritual.
I don't believe in demons. I think that people are bad enough to assume that there has to be a spiritual aspect to evil. I think humans are mean and ugly enough at times that we don't need metaphysical monsters to keep us in line.
Oh, I believe that as well. But I didn't used to believe as much as I do now in the spiritual. And boy, the spiritual is most definitely real, man. There's other forces out there.
That's fine.
And I have other questions. I have another question. What do you believe happened to do you think the whole 12 tribes of Jacob are in the promised land right now, or do you think they're still scattered abroad, or are they even scattered abroad?
They are scattered abroad. At least 10 or possibly 9 of those tribes are. They're called the 10 lost tribes. The question is if I think they're coming back. I don't think they're coming back. I think their time has expired. Just because God doesn't care who your parents are. The people who think they're coming back are of the opinion that just because someone happens to have like a Jewish background, a Jewish pedigree, Hebrew pedigree, that God cares enough to bring someone back only because their great-great-great-grandfather was an Israelite at one point in time. I think that's like racist. I think that people could convert to Judaism even though they have no Hebrew background. Who cares if who cares who's descended from what tribe?
Okay, that's pretty good. That kind of answers my question, because I always wondered, me as a Christian, there's often times where people come into Christianity and they're really like fascinated by the Torah or the Torah traditions, and they try to uphold the Torah, and I wonder if it's like maybe God waking them up, like, hey man, you need to go back to Torah.
That's what's up. I invite this guy, asked the rabbi to come up. See, like, if you would like to have a nice dialogue, Erev Shabbos here. But it doesn't seem like it.
And I have another question.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I don't really see too many Jewish people out there like spreading the Jewish gospel, I would say. I don't know how to put it,
That's fine. You could use that word.
Yeah. Why don't I see more of that?
It's a shame.
Huh?
It's a shame that there's no one publicly, at least, that if they do it, that says that they do it. I try to do it in terms of not gospel. You don't have to be Jewish in order to be validated by a good God. But for sure, for people who are looking for some sort of ethical outlet in life, I would encourage them to look into Judaism. It might be for them. It might not be for them. But I think that's just called being friendly and having an open door policy.
Yes, because honestly, you're like the only guy that I see out here And for us Christians, we believe that Jesus Christ is the only way, the truth, and the life. The only way you can get to the Father is through Jesus. So it's like it's a must. It's like we have to. If we don't, if we truly care about you, it is not. We're not gonna sit there and not tell you for years, or just know you for a whole lifetime and never tell you about Jesus. That's like it's like a sin to us. We have to in every opportunity that we have.
And it's commendable. It's a great thing that you do it. I don't believe in Christianity, but it shows that you care about people. There's someone in the chat called Ask the Rabbi, who is insulting me and is refusing to come up and dialogue with me. This is a trend that I've seen him do all over TikTok. This guy named Litvin, who refuses to have a dialogue with me, I think because he knows as well as I do that he's going to come short. Absolutely.
Yeah, people like that are chickens, man. They want to act big and tough on social media. It's like my generation, we got all these little internet gangsters that go up and talk mess, but when you run into them in person, they don't say nothing.
I don't attack people on TikTok, but I love talking, especially when someone is religious as well, just to see where we differ. Once we know where we differ, then that we could properly guide each other, because the goal is if someone's doing something they're not supposed to be doing, it behooves people to point them in the right direction. And this is why I commend you as a Christian, that you feel that you're actually helping people by introducing them to Jesus. I'm not convinced of Jesus. I'm trying to help people to introduce them to Torah. But for sure, if we don't confront bad ideas with good ideas, the world will never improve. So we have to do something.
Amen. Especially nowadays, man, this world is so wicked, man, and it's really like it's turning away from God so much, man, and you see it in your everyday life, and it's affecting everybody from the leaders up into like the children that are living this generation, that are giving themselves to all this perversion and man, it's just it's horrible.
I hear you, bro.
Ulysses, if I may, I just joined up. So I've read the Bible cover to cover. I'm baptized. I call myself more, I don't follow the denominations of Christianity. I call myself more of a Jesus follower. I take kind of a bit of everything. Does God not also tell us, especially in the Bible, that even if others are ungodly, that we should keep to our own? He does mention spreading the love of Christ and talking about Christ with people, but I don't think that is a way to pass judgment of how this world is turned. I admit that there is depravity in this world, but there was.
Okay, I have a question for you. I have a question for you since you read the Bible. Can you show me where it says that, or something remotely to that?
I don't believe in where exact. Not don't believe. Sorry, I don't quite remember the exact. It's in the New Testament where Jesus says to. Basically, the paraphrase is about worrying about yourself more than others. Worry about your own before you pass judgments on others.
No such thing in the New Testament. There's a great commission. I'm not a Christian, but I know the New Testament well enough to know that Jesus charges all his disciples to go into all the nations and basically make them followers of him. This is a notion in Judaism that you can't love good unless you first hate evil. So the idea that you're going to condemn before you even try to guide people in the right direction, boy, then there's no point to your existence, at least ethically. It's just a waste of space.
Can I say something? Because I believe you're talking about taking out the speck in your own eye before you take out the plank in your own the plank in your own eye before you take the speck out your brother's eye. But it's basically saying that if I can't be sitting here telling you, hey man, you shouldn't look at pornography because it's a sin, it goes against God. But if me myself is if I'm giving myself to pornography or looking at women in a lustful manner, then I will be judged. I will be all I will be doing is basically condemning myself. But if I have overcome lustful thoughts and lustful desires, and I've overcome pornography, is more of a way like, hey brother, you shouldn't do that because it messes with your brain. Hey brother, you shouldn't do that because it messes with your marriage. It's more of a looking out. But obviously, if I'm doing the same thing, if I'm partaking the same sin, it'll be hypocrite of me to do that. And that's what we call the Pharisee spirit, somebody who's operating under hypocrisy.
I think actually you made a good point that I kind of agree with, is that if you're coming from the aspect of the speck out of your own eye, for the speck of your brother, I think that there is truth in that. I think that, like, if to say that to change or to charge someone with a judgment of a based off religion, or judging them for a religious action or something you believe in is religious, especially if the other person is not religious, is hypocritical to me. Because if you are also partaking in that, you are also not following your own word. But I think that also, if you're doing it from a standard of, like, we can use pornography because we all know how, like, dangerous that is outside of religion. If you're coming at, like, a kind of a stance of, like, oh, like a brother or a friend, or saying, like, hey, I'm worried about your addiction to pornography. That's different, because while you still may be partaking in the pornography, you're causing to someone else about their addiction, about their problem. You're facing the problem rather than passing judgment based off religious intent. I think that passing judgment based off of religious intent is where my problem.
All right, let me chime in here. Yeah, but let me mute you a little bit, Rosas, because you have background noise like crazy. Okay, so to what extent would you take this neutral position? You don't believe in educating your children either, let's say?
I think that if my children want to find religion, they can find religion.
No, forget about religion in terms of ethics, because that's what we're pushing here. The Bible, the laws in the Bible, around half of them are ethical in nature. The other half are ritualistic in nature. So is there any area in life, would you say, that ethically you would say, this is good for me and it's good for you also?
Yeah.
So what do you think we're doing?
I think you can be ethic with or without religion. I think atheists can be ethic and moral.
Oh, well, so your issue is only with spreading ritualistic aspects of religion, but ethical ones, you're okay then?
I think if you're, again, like pornography, if you're coming about it from an ethical perspective, I'm worried about a friend in the pornography addiction, versus you're committing a sin against God, those are two very different responses.
Yeah, but that never appears on this show. We never tell people that you're committing a sin against God just because you're breaking a ritualistic law, especially when the people don't belong to our religion. I can't adjudicate a Muslim according to Jewish law, just like, well, I would leave Islam out of this because they try to adjudicate everyone according to Islam. And the same thing with Christianity, but Judaism doesn't function like that. I try to make you a better person by introducing you to biblical ethics and morality, not ritualistic law. I would never tell you to keep the Sabbath. Believing in God, like, on its own doesn't make you any more ethical. However, we have to pay tribute to where the ethics in our modern day society comes from, and it's mainly the Bible. So what's wrong with that?
I think that I disagree with that from a historical standpoint of ethics mainly come from the Bible. I think that in Western countries, definitely, but for around the globe, or in terms of other people outside of religion as well, I don't think so. I still stand by the fact that you could be ethical and moral without holding to any religion at all.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, so I just disagree with that. I just have contention with that. Is that
it's just very hard to replicate that. I
think that there is things that are obviously that are ethically moral, like don't off people, that also the Bible says not to do. I think that's what we're trying. I think what we're debating about and talking about is where is the division. How I'm seeing it, correct me if I'm understanding, is where is the divide between ethics and religion?
So, ethics and morality, I believe everyone is born with the basic sense of that. This is why God was able to adjudicate, let's say, Sodom and Gomorrah and other nations, a generation of Noah. Even before,
for sake of argument, let's say, like, we're talking about, like, of course, mentally sane people who don't have, like,
no, that's fine. But you specifically asked
context out there for sake of debate.
You specifically asked between religion and ethics. So, yeah. I'm trying to bring in some religious, i.e., biblically based argument on how God could adjudicate people before there was an actual standard given, because everyone seems to have been born with the basic sense of morality. Meaning, the Bible is not there to make you good. The Bible is there to make you better. It's there to polish you up. This is the only way God, at least from a religious perspective, could reward you for choosing the right religion, because you didn't blunt or break your moral compass. You were able to choose, let's say, one religion over another one because, let's say, that religion it made you a better person to your neighbor. So from that perspective, we could say that the goal is to make the world a better place. I would put my money every time on someone who has been sensitized by the God of the Bible in achieving that goal than someone who tries to reinvent the wheel ethically daily.
So I'm asking for making sure I have correction here. The people who are the religious are you saying the people who are religious are more ethical?
I think statistics show that communities that are more religious have a lower crime rate than those more likely to be irreligious.
Mm-hmm. Do you have a stat for that?
Well, there are stats. I don't have them in front of me, but in life, things either confirm the obvious or are typically wrong. I could ask you like a few questions, and I'm sure that you would concur. Like, would you say that, let's say, a city in the Bible Belt is less violent than a blue city, Portland, Oregon,
I wouldn't say that.
Seattle, Washington?
I live in Seattle, and I still wouldn't say that.
Really?
Yeah.
So you think if a person has a command, let's say, not to eat pork, and someone doesn't, the person who has a command not to eat pork is going to end up eating more pork than the person who doesn't have the command not to eat it?
I think that it's few and far between. It's arguing basis off of a what's the word I'm looking for? A hypothesis of saying, oh, well, will this happen? Because we don't know. There's no way to figure that out.
I'm saying what's more likely? If you have a child raised with a healthy sense of biblical ethics and values, would you expect that child to be more ethical than a child who in some way has to figure everything out for themselves ethically?
No.
So that's I mean, it's in some cases all right, so then why educate anyone in ethics?
That's why I think that it depends. It depends on each person, their background. There's a lot of outlying factors.
So you would flip a coin.
That person raising that. Excuse me, I have to cough real quick. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold.
Yeah, you would flip a coin then.
If it's based off of in a religious household, those parents could be still religious but be terrible.
No, I get it. I'm saying in the vast majority of cases, you would just flip a coin.
Do things to make that child do things later that are very unethical, which we've seen happen before. But there's also people who are raised in non-religious households, not necessarily atheistic, but just non-religious households that are super ethical.
This is why I'm saying in the vast majority of cases. No, hold on. This is why I'm saying in the vast majority of cases, you would just flip a coin. Someone sensitized by biblical values versus someone who figures everything out on their own, you would just flip a coin on who you would decide ends up being more ethical at the end of the day. That's a bit silly.
I think that no, I wouldn't flip a coin. I think that it's an idea that is a good to discussion of debate, but I don't think that there's a solid answer to that because again, it depends on outlying factors, where you were raised.
Again, so then you would just flip a coin.
Where your education was, where you grew up.
In the vast majority of cases,
there's a lot of outlying factors.
No, I get it. That's why I'm saying I'm trying to generalize here.
That are not.
Clearly, you can be an ethical atheist and a crappy religious person. However, I would put my money always, I would bet always on the person who tries to challenge his nature and tries to adhere to some moral code than someone who tries to just reinvent the wheel ethically daily. Wouldn't you? I mean, isn't that common sense? This is why I think being on the left and being atheistical just makes you dumber. It doesn't end up with you being more logical.
I think I disagree with that for the original statement. There is no evidence and proof of other than opinion because there's no any data to track it or by basis of your personal experiences. Because I've personally experienced people who are super religious that are just, excuse my French, that are just generally shitty people.
This is why I said in the vast majority of cases. Okay.
But in my case, though, from my expectations, in the vast majority of cases, it's always the people who were raised in non-religious households who are more ethical and better people than the people who were raised in religious households.
I think in life, either things confirm the obvious or are typically wrong. It sounds like you have a chip on your shoulder to assume that someone who strives to war against, let's say if they're a man, their sexual predatory nature, and if they're a woman, their emotions, that they're going to end up being less ethical than someone who just doesn't care, right, and does what they want. I mean, how can you ever raise children with such a standard, right? Of course, if someone strives to be more ethical, in this case, by tempering their nature against an ethical religious code, they're going to be more ethical than someone who doesn't. Why can you acknowledge that?
Not necessarily true. I've met tons of people who have called.
Not tons. I'm saying in the vast majority of cases. You keep on talking about personal experience. Why do you keep on saying, I know people? I'm saying in the vast majority of cases, people who strive, it doesn't even have to be the Bible.
If you have one, you don't have a statistic to prove that. And secondly, from my perspective, in mass majority of cases, it's always the people who are not religious schools who are better, more ethical people than the people who are.
Well, can I jump in on this?
And I concede that is a personal.
No, it sounds silly. You know why? It's because I'm pretty sure. Like if I took the Bible outside of this discussion, meaning there's someone who only studies Marcus Aurelius, or Plato's Republic, or other attempts to make themselves better people on this planet, then you would acknowledge for sure that person would shine above all the rest who don't, but only because
you can't say that you cannot say that because there is no data to prove that. There is someone who could just as well do it.
It's equivalent to saying that someone who works out is going to end up being less healthy than someone who does in the vast majority of cases. It makes no sense. You're actually pushing people towards my side by failing to acknowledge the obvious.
That's a disconnect.
I'm not even mentioning God, by the way. I never mentioned the belief in God. I mentioned being sensitized by an ethical, moral code, whether God exists or not. But you're saying not even that makes you a better person. Everything is morally relative.
Because you said that was raised, and you were in the hypothetical you gave me, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
In the hypothetical you gave me, the ethical moral code was used. It was religious text.
No, correct. That doesn't mean they have to believe in the Bible.
Someone who was raised in a non-religious household with not ethics.
Correct. Individual moral training versus a nihilistic existence.
You were saying that inherently the Bible is people who are religious are more ethical and more moral than people who are not.
In the vast majority of cases, yes.
Okay, so because there's one, no data to prove that. Two,
there is data, by the way, in terms of red and blue cities. Red and blue cities show
tons of personal anecdotal evidence based off of both
that's
you
not personal.
and me and other
I think people acknowledge that the more blue the city, you're in Seattle, Washington, right? Very similar to Portland, Oregon. What's the crime rate versus a red city? It's through the roof. Why? Because your leaders, your politicians are typically irreligious, and they allow people to steal, and they condone things that increase an uneasy environment versus red cities. I mean, compare Chapel Hill, North Carolina to Brooklyn, New York. You still believe that more religious societies in America are more violent than less religious ones?
Is that why red cities have more pedophiles and child molesters than blue cities?
Oh, I don't think anyone's going to believe that.
That's true. It's that.
That's actually not true.
Another thing with blue cities is that if there's a crime going on, they'll just decriminalize it.
Correct.
Just legalize the
or they won't report it.
Yeah, I will concede to that point. Seattle, the problem so much with Seattle, and Portland is improving a little bit, but the problem with Seattle is I'm a communist, and there's a lot of leftists here in Seattle.
How did I know it, by the way?
Our Congress, our House, and our mayor, and our governor are super Democratic, which we do not like. So when we try to say, we want something done, we want to improve public transit, right? That just happened recently. They just do things, and then they don't do any regulation or any correction or point anybody to oversee it. They just kind of do it and then let it go free. And it's like, no, you need to do things to actually make this work, because if you don't, it won't work. That's what happened with Portland in the legalizing of drugs. They just said, here's your drugs, and they didn't do anything else to help.
So then it shows
over overdoses and doing what other countries did.
So essentially, you have a religion just like I do. Your religion is leftism. That's why. But you correctly called yourself a communist. Is that what you said? Communist?
Yeah, I don't. So I want to say.
All right. So this is why.
I do not conflate with my religious and my political beliefs with each other. I separate them completely.
You don't have religious beliefs in terms of a biblically based religious system. The belief system of atheists is leftism in the vast majority of cases. Right? I mean, just like you might find some people who believe in God who are communists, which is quite rare. It's quite rare to find an atheist who in some way despises religion.
There's a lot of people that I've talked to that argue, the atheists and religious or different religions as well, argue that Jesus would have been a common day Marxist.
Okay.
Yeah, I disagree.
Yeah, that's a bit silly.
Or at least not common day, but at least could be configured and as a point to be made.
I've heard that point because they shared things in common. This is actually in the book of Acts. It says that's where the notion of communism comes from, because they shared things in common. I guess the blood and trail, the trail of blood and carnage. That
context. The Acts verse is, I don't use that when talking about Marx. I hate when other communists do that, because Acts is in context is not talking about the Commonwealth and the proletariat. They're talking about something completely different. What I use is my contention between Bible and communism, or Jesus and communism. Sorry, I'm digressing, but I got to finish this point and we can put it to bed. Is that was someone who was very treat your neighbor as yourself. If you're rich, give your money to the poor, it gets you into heaven. this kind of thing. I will concede that there's obviously no evidence that is ever going to prove or disprove if Jesus was anything economical, but there certainly is an argument to be made that he was certainly anti-capitalist.
That's fine.
Not still Marcus, but anti-capitalist.
Listen, I mean, he supported taxes to an authoritarian government. You can't say he's a communist. And additionally, he believed in God. That's not communism. In a Marxist state, there wouldn't be there wouldn't be religion.
Oh yeah, there is. Marx talks about how
there wouldn't. That's why the Soviet Union oppressed every single religion in Russia.
Marx said, if you read the Communist Manifesto and you read Das Kapital and you read what Engels and Marx wrote, Marx was very adamant about the idea of keeping not a religious state, but having the freedom for people to be able to hold religion.
I don't remember that at all.
Okay, anyways.
The issue that
let's divert here.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, fine. Yeah, we don't believe in Christianity on the show. Okay, but the idea that you think, I mean, acknowledging that you're a communist, that the world would be better off if they adopted the Communist Manifesto versus, let's say, the Jewish Bible in terms of any signs of progress ethically, I think it's ridiculous. In the last 150 years, over 180 million people have been unalived under the atheistical pursuit called communism. From 70 million under Mao, 40 million under Stalin, 2 million under Pol Pot, untold millions under North Korea, untold hundreds of thousands, possibly millions under Castro, all under the attempt of trying to reinvent the wheel ethically, right? And that's communism for you. If you want to keep on,
6 trillion people have, or sorry, not trillion, 1.6 billion people have been killed off under capitalist regimes.
I said in the last 150 years.
Please let me finish. I'll let you finish talking about which ones you talked about. I have a right to.
What's a capitalist regime?
Fighting against capitalist regime for capitalist interests or Western interests. We see it constantly with America did to Southern American countries. We can see it with Vietnam. We see it with both world wars. We see it with the Korean War. We see it really with any modern day war that America.
Both world wars were for capitalism.
Wait, hold on. I mean, these numbers are completely made up. Like, you know how many billions you would need to make a trillion?
Millions of people were off by
yeah, you said trillions.
Yeah.
No,
millions of people have been off throughout history in the idea of a capitalist interest or the idea of keeping one person having ownership of the other person's means of production throughout history. That is undeniable.
Jaden, let me ask you something.
No, let's not move from this. I mean, stop interrupting. Listen.
It isn't true because it just is true.
Okay.
It's just basis history.
What, is that your rebuttal?
It's ridiculous.
I mentioned 180 million, and you said what, over a trillion? Like, do you know how many centuries?
Billion, not trillion. I misspoke. Billion.
Oh, billion. All right. So what's your proof for a billion? A billion people? I mean, there's around 6 billion in the world today. A billion people under capitalistic pursuits.
Yep, 1.6. Exact.
In what time frame?
1.6 between World War II to current day. Or sorry, World War I. Excuse me.
Are you 1 billion people have been unalived under capitalistic pursuits because of capitalism? That's silly. That's silly.
Wait, how is World War I and World War II capitalism?
It was fighting for the capitalist interest. I mean, that's like pretty common knowledge.
But how is a kingdom capitalist?
World War II, we fought against we used the Yazidis as a way after we defeated the Yazidis and after the Allies won World War II. The amount of money that America made off of that.
And the Yazidis.
Wait, hold on.
Just because some of this stuff, they made billions, millions, and billions of
All
dollars.
right, here.
That war.
I dropped the other guy because I want you to talk to me. He keeps on interrupting. Okay. World War II, the vast majority of people who died fighting the Yazidis were Soviets. They were on your side. This idea that World War II was a capitalistic pursuit was incorrect. Perhaps afterwards, would have helped the U.S. get out of the Depression. That's two different things. The U.S. got into World War II very, very late in the game. And the idea that World War I had anything to do with capitalism outside of maybe monarchies that were all related fighting against each other, I think you need like a crash course in world politics.
I'm referring to the American death toll for World War II and one.
The Americans jumped into the war much, much later, only after they were attacked by Japan. And what did Japan...
You mentioned earlier Russia, about the whatever number it was.
Correct.
The book that comes from, that identical stat, the Black Book of Communism.
40 million under Stalin is a conservative number, by the way. 40 million under Stalin. I'm sorry?
By the writers themselves and Harvard study.
Well, the Russians themselves will tell you.
Harvard historians and Russian historians themselves have noted that the Black Book of Communism numbers are a bit wishy-washy, and they don't really know the exact number because things like
that's why I said it's a conservative number.
Falling off of buildings, dying of old age, things that were not directly deaths under communism or because of communism.
It's a conservative number. This is why I mentioned Stalin.
Were listed as deaths in communist countries.
It's because of communist, atheistical pursuits.
I am not denying that there's not people that have died that were off in communist countries. I'm not denying that. That's true. It would be foolish of me to deny because it's just simply historical.
Right, no.
But
that's not the comparison. We're comparing. We're comparing deaths between communist countries and capitalistic ones.
The number that you were conflating is from the Western education mindset of what the numbers are because communism.
And it doesn't make it wrong. Why don't you speak to Ukrainians on how many Ukrainians were starved by the Soviets? The number given is around 7 million.
Why don't you talk to the Irish of what the British did they could protect?
Well, that actually. Well, the potato famine wasn't actually pushed by the Irish. That's a left-wing lie, by the way. Okay. You know, it's interesting.
If it's capitalist, it's fine. If it's capitalist, it's not.
Oh, wait a minute. Okay, so you're conflating things that you're attributing to a capitalistic country versus things that are failures of the communistic system. In terms of nationalizing the means of production, including agriculture and the tools they would use to farm, that's what caused them to starve. That's an atheistical, communistic pursuit. You're saying only because a capitalistic country engages in certain action, that falls into the realm of capitalism.
You know that there was religion under communist countries, right?
No, absolutely. Absolutely. But they were mistreated.
Because whatever the regime leaders did at the time, which is what the main contention and what I have with main contentions about talking about modern day communist countries, they didn't follow Marx like at all. Like they basically took Marx, like Lenin was the only true one that wanted to follow.
So this is an all-time argument by communists that every attempt of pursuing pure socialism was a fake, failed attempt, and we should keep on trying till we get it right.
I think that there's no such thing ever as any socialist, communist, or capitalist system that has been completely impure.
You're just reiterating my statement. So we should keep trying, right?
That idea that something is pure or it is working 110% of the time doesn't make sense because utopianism is fucking dumb. Excuse my French.
Yeah,
I'm very passionate about this idea that utopianism is dumb.
So the communist mindset is a utopian idea. Equality of outcome is a utopian idea.
Believing in utopianism is believing that you have 110% backing of a systems of belief, which you will never have because there will always be someone willing to play devil's advocate.
And that's at the core of every socialist society. The idea that they themselves can make a better
society, bro. That's
all right. We're going in circles. We're going in circles. Okay. Any example I give for a communist society from Mao Zedong to Stalin, you'll say is not true communism. That we should keep trying, no matter the trail of blood and carnage that communists have left.
It is a branch of communism. I won't say that it's excuse me.
Okay.
Because when we say
here we're going in circles now.
When we say that something is not true, it was not true communism, or it was not true this, that, the other, right? It's not that it wasn't still communism because it was. It is not.
All right. I mean, I'm gonna have to drop the guy. We're going in circles. I mean, he's denying reality. Lies is the foundation, the mother of all evils on this planet.
I just looked up. Marx wanted to abolish communism, or wanted to abolish religion with the communist revolution.
In terms, he called it the opiate of the masses. He's saying the Soviet Union. Yes, it's true. Soviet Union. It's interesting. The Christians.
No, I'm saying Marx. I'm saying theoretical communism also wanted to do that.
Right. Well, it's because people who are involved in religion, i.e., happy people, do not engage in revolution. So,
Jesus said, what did he say? If you, a man with a sword has a well-protected family and private property or something like that, or if you have a cloak and not a sword, buy a cloak, or sell your cloak, you buy a sword. I just think that's crazy.
Anyways, it's a silly argument. Welcome, Ash.
Rabbi, why did you drop me though? I was cooking.
Ooh. No, it's because I'm trying to have a dialogue, and then you're like kind of hopping in there, and then it's just, I do better when it's one-on-one. Just I bring you back up, but it's just this is the way I dialogue. I love politics. It goes even like with Israel versus Hamas, the lies are through the roof. There's nothing worse than lying about people. You see how people talk crap about me, right? The only way they can harm me is by making up stuff. I don't lie about anything. I tell people I'm a convert. I am an open book. Lies are the worst thing you could do. And this is how people keep on pushing socialist ideas, because it's based on lies. Anyone who believes that a more religious city in America is going to be more violent than a less religious one lives. We may inhabit the same planet, but they live in a different universe. Okay, it makes absolutely no sense. Now, does that mean that all religious people are beautiful and innocent? Of course not. Does that mean all atheists are crappy? Of course not. However, generalizations are the foundation of wisdom. If you're not able to see patterns in life and say, you know what, for the most part, I would trust my kids with religious Christians than I would with atheists, right? At least there's a healthy fear of God telling them that I'm upset if you do this. I mean, with the idea that someone, let's say, is going to eat more pork, right, than someone who has a book that tells them not to eat pork is ridiculous. It's stupid.
Additionally, what was it, 1.6 billion? Oh, come on. I mean, that's out of source.
Yeah,
trust me, bro.
but those numbers
Also-
are through the roof. Anyways.
Also, if you get to base communism off Karl Marx, then we get to base capitalism off Milton Friedman. And Milton Friedman never advocated for any type of kingdom or monarchy.
Yeah.
So Marx wasn't against religion.
I just looked it up. It said he wanted to abolish religion.
Well, he was against
I
religion.
need a source saying.
Wait, hold on.
Abolish religion. He said it was an opiate of the people. It doesn't mean that he was against religion.
It seems he was pretty against religion.
Hold on.
He wasn't.
Let's not get into this back and forth. Ash, continue.
Well, he wasn't against it. Like, basically what he was saying was like, instead of, praying for your conditions to get better, like what we should do is improve the material conditions. People absolutely still have a right to their religion. And even in the Soviet Union, it was never outlawed. You just weren't allowed to proselytize. And
No, it was outlawed. Priests were killed.
It wasn't, though.
Rabbis were killed.
Wait,
Torah
hold on.
scrolls were burned.
So
Okay, so it wasn't outlawed.
religious
though.
people were persecuted in the Soviet Union, but there were synagogues and there were churches. There were many churches that were confiscated by the state and made into, businesses and stuff like that. They weren't friendly to religion. The only individuals that were protected in the Soviet Union were Jews. For some reason, in their constitution, there was a clause, maybe because Lenin was partially Jewish, that said that any form of anti-Semitism would have the death penalty attached to it.
That's not religious Jews, though. Maybe he's talking about the ethnic component.
Stalin was like an Orthodox Christian.
No, he
No.
wasn't.
Okay.
wasn't.
Yeah, he
In
was,
the
though.
hold on.
He was. Okay,
Hold
source,
on,
please.
Hold on. All right. So Stalin went to seminary to become a priest. However, when he became a Marxist, he dropped religion. This idea. As a matter of fact, his 3 wives were Jewish. Like, why would an Orthodox Christian marry Jews?
He revived the church to intensify patriotic support for the war effort.
No,
World War
at one
II.
time he was religious. However, when he became the leader, the chairman of the Soviet Union, he was an atheist. You're saying he was religious? As a Soviet?
You can be an atheist and still support people having religion. Like, I'm an
Oh,
atheist.
I'm
and I
not
believe
making the
people have right
argument.
to religion.
Okay, the Soviets persecuted religious people. I'm not saying that you couldn't be religious in the Soviet Union. However, similar to the state of Israel, most people don't understand.
Just say that, though.
No, I'm saying religion was persecuted, and you said that Stalin was an Orthodox Christian. No, he wasn't.
Yeah, at one point he was.
At one point he was, sure. At one point he was a child, and then he got older, right? He dropped
All right.
Orthodox Christianity. He wasn't an Orthodox
That's
Christian
fine,
when he
that's fine.
burned churches down and burned Torah scrolls.
All right, Cool Dog's in the
Okay,
house.
no
Welcome, Cool
source
Dog.
for that.
When you give me your source for
Yes, hello.
when you give me your source
All right.
for anything,
Guys,
that you
guys,
would-
Let's talk about religion. Ash, so what's your name, Ashley?
It's my name's on here. It's Ash.
No, that's what I mean. Ash. Is it short for Ashley?
I don't really think it matters what it's short for.
No, because my name is also, they call me Ash too. So I was just curious.
It's good.
Anyways, let me.
What, her name is also Asher? That's so
Yep.
cool.
No, her name is Ash.
Yeah, her name is Asher, though.
Well, it could be, like Ashir was the daughter of, I don't know, someone's daughter. So what's up, Cool Dog?
Someone's daughter. Hello, how are you?
Was macht the Yid?
How did your face up doing so far?
Not too painful because I eat kidneyot, and I have all these videos on how you can make pasta on Passover. You can make pancakes. Pesach doesn't have to be like Yom Kippur. Okay, I mean, unless you're Lubavitch, and then you got bigger problems than just not eating the brux. But
No, what do you got? You remember Moti, right?
the Syrian guy?
No, the Chabad guy.
Oh, I didn't know he was Chabad. Okay,
Yeah, he told me that that Chabad don't even they have on the Seder they have their own they clean out the entire table and only eat matzah. They don't.
Oh, right. No, because the gebrux, they don't
Yeah,
put any
no.
liquid on it. And also, they do something where they hold by the Zohar in this aspect. I've only seen them do this, but according to the understanding of Yayin Nesech, like you're not supposed to allow a non-Jew to touch wine that's not mavushal, right?
Mhm.
However, according to the Zohar, if a non-Jew looks at the wine, it's usher. So
Really?
then, what Chabad does is that they keep their wines in paper bags. I mean, similar to like people drinking malt liquor on the corners in paper bags on Passover. Check it out, and it's because of the Zohar.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But I would assume that within the process of making the wine, a guy looked at it.
What is well, no, okay. So when you buy wine that's not mavushal, it typically comes sealed.
Yes.
You buy it from the Jewish.
That's true.
First,
And
it's
when
very hard to find wine that's not cooked. And by the way, I mean the Rambam says that that's the wine you're supposed to make kiddush on.
Really, he said that?
Yeah. I mean, he says, "Well, it should be wine with that's not mevushal." So I made a video on how you can fulfill
It's
it.
not nevushal?
Right.
Oh.
Because it's on a higher madrega. So if you wanted to fulfill that halacha, would just buy a juicer and just throw grapes in it, and you can make wine that's not mevushal. I mean, there was a community in Africa that they.
It doesn't have to have alcohol in it, right?
No, right.
Oh, it would even work if you just made. Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, so that's lechatchila. But of course, any wine. Heck, you don't even need wine. I mean, you can make kiddush on beer if you wanted to.
What? It doesn't have to have grapes.
No, that's if it's gonna be berei priagafen. But you can make kiddush on she'akol too.
Yesterday you said a lot of conservatives were leaving the Jewish people. Which ones did you have in mind in particular?
So,
Rabbi, this is Torah, right?
What's Torah? Is prophesied?
No, I'm Torah. I just changed my name.
No, yeah, I hear you, Brian. I know who you is.
So which ones do you think?
So Mark Dice is very much against it. Who else? All the people who are against Ben Shapiro and pro Candace Owens are like shedding a bad light on it.
I think Candace Owens isn't really anti-Israel. I think she's just mad.
No, but this beef against against Ben Shapiro and Shmuley Boteach and this guy who didn't make us look good online, this Rabbi Barkley guy. What a
Shmuley Boteach. I mean, he makes the most pro-Palestine supporters ever. I mean, he's terrible.
I'm not a fan of the guy. I met him once. I was in Virginia, and he came to the synagogue I was at. And I'm like, hey, you're Shmuley Boteach. And, that's the extent of my, I didn't purchase any toys from his daughter or anything. No, by the way, his daughter's not from. No, when they interviewed her, she's just she's wearing shorts. Not that I care who's from or not, but it's just the problem is she's doing it under the guise of Judaism. It's like
exactly no, and he wrote that book.
Yeah, kosher
that
sex.
advocated for this thing.
Yeah. You saw the interview that he did with Alex Jones, and Alex Jones is like,
yes.
What did he say? He's like,
are you wearing a butt plug?
Right. Are you wearing a butt plug? And is it called His Holiness? Or something like that. It was. I
think Alex Jones said, if you're a rabbi, I'm an archbishop or something like that.
Oh, so that I'm not cool with. And I don't like people making fun of him or his daughter for what they're doing. I mean, it's not bad what they're doing. I wouldn't do it, okay? But it helps a lot of people. I know in Jerusalem, there was like on Yaffo, there was this big building. I don't even know if it's there anymore. It's called Binyan Klal. And in there was a sex shop run by Haredi Jews. And you go in and they give you like a dark back. This is what I heard. I mean,
Why do you know that?
how do I know? Right? It's because it's a mitzvah to please your spouse. Mitzvah night is like Friday night. That's the understanding. It's not seen as such a nasty thing in Judaism as it may. Like for sure, the
No,
rabbis.
but when you do it in that way, you make it only about the pleasure, the physical pleasure of it. It's not good.
It should be about intimacy and pleasure.
Yeah, so the rabbis were actually against the Shmuley Boteach's book, Kosher S. Very much. There's three shluchim, like Chabad rabbis, that were put in Cherem, like not official Cherem, but they were kicked out of their like apostleship. So first was Shmuley Boteach. Well, Shmuley Boteach wasn't the first. Shlomo Karbach. Shlomo Karbach started off Lubavitch. And then when he started doing his things, I mean, there were stories about him conning women in a minyan, giving women hugs, very similar to like Shmuley Boteach. Well, the second one was this rabbi in Boulder, Colorado, Shmuley Schechter or something. Shmuley Schechter, whatever. Him and Shmuley
Everything
Boteach.
is Shmuley, Shlomo.
Yeah, Schechter. Yeah. So those are the three rabbis who started off as emissaries for Chabad and lost their emissaryship. Like Shmuel Boteach was in Oxford. That's just an FYI. But
smoothly. This must be a sign.
I'm not a fan of his. I mean, clearly he's a good guy. He's a good guy. I don't like what he did to Candace Owens. And for some reason, all the hatred, the majority of the hatred I've gotten online and on TikTok has been almost specifically by Chabad rabbis. Like this guy Litvin, who, my gosh, he really insults me. Like, I mean, he calls me like Jorge. First of all, like my name is George, right? That's my legal name, George with a G. I mean, Jorge was my father, But he tried to, because I'm Hispanic, he tried to ridicule the idea that I'm not really Jewish. I'm like, wow, why would a religious person treat a convert like that? And I never, under the guise of being a convert, I don't expect them to treat me nice. I just want them to treat me normal. But the idea that you're going to pick a convert and like ridicule his past, it's unheard of when I never even insulted a guy. I mean, I just want a dialogue. I love debating with people who call themselves rabbi, not because I want to insult them, but I want to know what they know, right? And I think most people know that they don't end up on top of the discussion when they have dialogue with me, just because I think they lose their cool too quick, Like if they kind of like wait me out a little, they may win, but they just get mad and start insulting me. But yeah, him, and then there's another guy named Yossi Korf. Korf is like a prestigious name in the Chabad world. He hates my guts. There's a few articles they wrote about me, like in the New York Times about whatever, January 6th or something. And they interviewed him and he was just like spewing, like insulting the heck out of me. And I'm like, you're supposed to be a conservative too. So they dislike me more than they like conservatism. But anyway, conservative with the capital. Well, is that capital or small c? Like politically conservative, not Orthodox. Someone says Noahide law scares me out of me. Okay. Yeah, we don't support people becoming Noahides when they have the ability to become Jewish. If they want to become a Noahide, you're already a Noahide, so there's nothing really to become. But
yeah, they're not really becoming. They're following the law you commanded as a Noahide.
Yeah, I mean, you're already a son or a daughter of Noah. Like you either now. Let's break down what the Noahide laws are. Okay, I know most people don't teach it like this, but this is a sane explanation of the Sheva Mitzvot B'nai Noach. These are laws developed by the Sanhedrin to adjudicate Gentiles who either live in the land of Israel or who are passing through the land of Israel. That means if you're a Gentile and clearly you haven't converted to Judaism, like you haven't accepted the commandments, and you're living in the land of Israel, because we're allowed to accept what's called Gerim Toshavim, resident aliens to live amongst us, how can the Sanhedrin adjudicate you against the 613 laws? They adjudicate you only against 7 laws. This idea was given a mystical spin, and it even appears in the Rambam. The Rambam brings down the Midrash that 6 laws were given to Adam and the 7th law was given to Noah. This is only a tale. It's a legend. Because of this, people ran with it. Now there's Noahides nowadays who believe that it's on a higher level to be a Noahide than to be a Jew.
There's no way to know, like, per se, if like the law was given to Adam or not, because it seems like, what was it, just absolute madness? Was it chaos and then the flood?
No, but it's just not in the Torah like this. It's not in the Torah. So there's Noahides nowadays who believe that being a Noahide is on a higher level than being Jewish. They believe that it came before Judaism. All right, I guess whatever. Yeridat HaDorot, it predates it. So this is how I believe and teach in the Noahide laws. People believe that you could be righteous by keeping the Noahide laws. That's only one opinion, two opinions in the Talmud. Well, I think Rabbi Eliezer holds the opposite. But suddenly, if you ask the average rabbi, can I convert to Judaism? They'll tell you, why would you want to convert to Judaism? When we teach, so matter-of-factly, which is not true, that if you're a Noahide, you're just as validated by God that if you keep all the, or like try to keep all the mitzvot. That's what I fight against.
Yeah, Noahidism isn't bad. Like, it's not evil, but it's just, Christianity is like a better form of
It's
that.
morally.
I have a question for you, Asher. If right now you have someone who would be willing to be a Noahide instead of converting to Judaism, isn't it better for him to be a Noahide, because then it would mean that there's a lesser chance that he would be a non-practicing Jew, because that means he's not as sure about becoming Jewish.
Oh, wait, first of all, it doesn't bother me that somebody converts to
The filtering
Judaism.
system could be as well as we have different opinions on what a Noahide is, but even from your perspective, why can't it be a filtering system, a filtration system?
Well, it has become a filtering system, by the way. However, we shouldn't lie to people. The truth is, the only reason people choose to become Noahides is because they're lied to into believing that if they keep 7 laws, that God validates that as if they were a high priest, right? We lied to them.
Not like that. Yeah.
What? Yeah. So
Yeah, you're right.
if we told them, you know what, it's true, the Torah doesn't even mention the 7 laws of Noah. The rabbis teach, we have an opinion that it's like this or that is one thing, but they say, of course, you don't need to become Jewish. God will validate you only by keeping 7
kind of real though, like
Oh,
a little
no.
bit, but also like I don't like how it's like a separate religion almost. Like, just be a Christian if you're gonna be like Jewish, because they're supposed to be like the spiritual Israel or something. That actually kind of makes sense.
Yeah, but
Noahide is just
that
like,
doesn't make
I
sense
don't
to
know,
us,
with
too.
Noah.
All right,
Like, it's
hold on. Come on. Just let me talk for a second. I'll bring you up in a second. All right. So the problem I have is with the dishonesty. An Orthodox Jew will not eat a French fry from an unreputable hashgacha, like an unreputable kosher symbol, right? Just to be safe, but they're going to offer a sincere Gentile a system that is just an opinion amongst the rabbis. An opinion, right? In terms of what reward does someone get for keeping Torah? Kol Yisrael yesh lachem chelek l'olam haba. Not that I believe that, but it says that at least by keeping Torah, at least by identifying as Israel, you'll get a share in the world to come. The idea that the Hasidim, like Umat Olam, get a share in the world to come is just one opinion that the Rambam contradicts elsewhere, right? It's the dishonesty. The idea that for a Jew, we're careful, but for a Gentile, we'll throw you a bone. What happens if they eat kosher? Who's they? I don't know what you're saying. So now in terms of what's safer, from a halachic perspective, it's safer to be a bad Jew than to be a good Noahide. And we mentioned this idea.
That's an interesting take.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the halacha.
Can you elaborate a little bit on that, please?
Yes, because a Gentile is unalived for breaking any one of the 7 laws with only one witness, with no hasra, with no pre-warning. Even if they borrow a pen without permission, they're unalived according to Jewish law. While a Jew is not unalived for stealing something, or there's only a handful of things that we're unalived for. So from a halal, now clearly no one's being unalived nowadays. There's no Sanhedrin either way, whether you're Jewish or not. So from that perspective, it's unethical for a Jewish person to offer the Noahide laws to someone who already wants to become Jewish. I get it. I mean, if you're not Jewish, then figure it out and then come to me when you're ready. But the idea that you're going to come to me when you're ready and I'm going to push you away, you have to be Lubavitch to think like that. Welcome, Nerdmonities.
Hello.
Hi.
Jaylee, I'm gonna go and be back in a sec. Wait.
Okay, yeah. So, what do you think about that, Cool Dog? Are you ready to convert to Judaism?
I'm not a Jew already.
Hey, there's no proof. A convert actually has paperwork that they're Jewish, but for you, it's a suffix. I mean, for every born Jew, you have.
I think it's just you trying to feel good with the fact that you're a convert.
I like being an underdog. No, but I mean, to be honest,
no, but it is true. A convert has a suffix on whether or not he's Jewish.
A convert or a born Jew?
A convert has less suffix.
Right,
whether or
left.
not
I mean, most people don't teach it like that. But so a suffix is a question. Every person who claims to be Jewish, it's a question if they're really Jewish. Not that it matters. If you keep mitzvot and you identify with Israel, it's interesting. I think the Rambam brings that down, that if you have a Kohen who identifies with the kahuna, and then they find out that he's now a Kohen, they should still let him duchen. I think I read that somewhere. Because it's probably now because there's no actual Beit HaMikdash. So, it doesn't matter either way. But it shows that once you build some sort of chazaka, that's ultimately what matters. But yes, a convert, because he has paperwork, right? We saw him go into the mikveh. At least if you convert by me, we record it, right? You're going into the mikveh with clothes on, by the way.
What? Why with clothes on?
Well, we tried it once without clothes. That's not true. Half the people who convert by me go with clothes, but they take their clothes off. Guys, at least. But most of them have clothes on. So the Rambam writes.
But I have a question. Wait, you yourself convert women?
Yeah.
It says that a woman should convert a man, and a man should convert a woman should convert a woman, and a man should convert a man.
Where does it say that?
What? Do you want me to show you the source?
Yeah, show me the source.
Okay, here, let me find it for you.
It's not in the Rambam. For sure, it's not in the Rambam.
Why do you say that it's not in the Rambam?
How can a woman be an aid?
Oh, wait. That's an interesting question. I don't know. This is what. Let me find you the source.
Yeah. There's a medrash that teaches that Sarah converted the women and Avram converted the men in Haran. But in terms of the halacha, what I've seen done, by the way, because the Rambam talks about them, like the woman going up to her neck in the water, and then the men just seeing her head go down, but they in some way assume that it was done correctly. But the way I've seen some Hasidim do, they'll trust the mikveh lady, like to say, like, yes, she went all the way down. Like in birth. Anyways, the Rambam in Hilchot Mikvaot in the first parak, I think it's the 7th halacha, he says that you could go to the mikveh with clothes on as long as it's loose clothing. For conversion, which is similar to like an immersion for Nida.
Interesting.
So that being said, it's better to be Jewish than to be a Noahide. Now, like if you don't want to be Jewish, being Jewish is not for everybody, for sure not. However, like if you think you have what it takes, go for it. And Cool Dog and Nerd here will be your biggest fans. Right?
No,
you encourage it, right, Doug?
What?
You encourage serious people to convert to Judaism, right?
Yeah.
Why do you even have to think about it? It's so
Kodog's against.
Nerd can answer for me. Nerd will answer for me.
I would say yes. Kodog would say no. There you go.
I do not think, even while they're in the conversion process, I try to encourage them to not convert.
Oh, you're a full Israeli for sure. That means you're entitled mentally, but it's not. It doesn't really pan out. That's so weird, huh? How about someone who's becoming from? Would you say like, just remain a secular Jew? No, because in halacha, ignorance is bliss. Meaning, if you don't know a halacha exists, you're not chayiv. That means you're not liable for breaking a law unless you believe that law technically exists. So then from that perspective, like, you should be encouraging secular Jews not to learn about Judaism because they wouldn't be liable.
No, that's not necessarily how it works, because if they do know of the mitzvah and do it, they will get a reward for it. And I want them to get the reward for this.
No, correct. But if they know the mitzvah and they don't do it, I would say the vast majority of secular Jews.
Yes, it's a risky thing. Sometimes you're correct. Sometimes I'm in a situation where I know that someone I can teach him about the halacha, but he's not going to learn. He's not going to listen. So I'd say, okay, I'm not going to teach him about it, because it's better for him to live in ignorance than to live knowing that he's doing something wrong.
Oh, so you're consistent.
But if I think there's a chance that he will listen, then of course I will teach him.
Okay. All right. So you're against your shlichut and you're against kiruv then.
Certain ways yes, and certain ways no. I think that there is a specific way to do it, and not everyone does it properly.
All right.
With converts, what I said before, discouraging them, is because, in my opinion, if at any stage of the process, even that one day before the mikvah, I managed to discourage people to convert, then that's a good thing because I discouraged one who might have not been a religious Jew afterwards.
So think about it. If you were alive during Har Sinai as already a religious Jew, you would have been telling the Hebrews and the mixed multitude don't accept the Torah.
What do you mean?
If you and a bunch of shluchim were in Har Sinai there, already religious, you know about the God of Israel, and you have the Hebrews and the Erev Rav there about to say Nasiv and Ishma, you would say, you know what? It's better for you to stay in ignorance. Don't keep this mitzvot because you're not going to be able to keep them, by the way. Like, don't accept the mitzvot if you can't keep it. This is your line of thinking.
I don't know. This is not my line of thinking. No.
That's what you're saying. It's better for them to drop it than if they accept it. And
it's okay. So it's better for someone to accept the Torah and try to do all the mitzvahs. Okay, so this is how it works in my brain. If someone is ignorant of the Torah, if I think that there's a chance that he will accept the Torah and try to follow the Torah, then I will teach him. If I think there isn't a chance, I will make it so there will be a chance, because I believe with every Jew you can do it. Okay. It might be a longer process with some, it might be a shorter process with others, but I think that you shouldn't just necessarily right away teach them about the Torah and teach them about all these things and all that they're doing wrong.
Mm-hmm. So you would encourage secular Jews not to procreate then?
That's an interesting question.
I got you. You have to remain consistent here. If
it would be
more secular Jews, if the issue is making more secular Jews, then you should tell every atheistical Jew, don't have babies.
Mm-hmm. Or marry goyim.
All right, fine.
Is it safe to say that if you were atheistic and you lived in America, but you abided by the laws in America, you would technically be more righteous than a Noahide, wouldn't you? Other than take the theology away.
No, here, look, Noahides don't only keep 7 laws. They say they keep 7 laws. There's no way that you can be an ethical person on this planet by only keeping 7 laws. There's no way. I
agree. I said, because that's my issue with Noahide, because say someone loves Hashem, they convince their whole town or whatever, a city, to become Noahide, but then the 7th law says to make courts of justice. Well, the only example of justice that these Noahides would have would be the written Torah or from Jews, from Halakha.
All they would know is that there are 7 laws and the punishment for all of them is death.
I know that, but what I'm saying is, in a way, it's kind of like a caste system in a way, or a secondary citizen type stat, because if a Jew is held to, like, I was listening one time, Asher was mentioning, like, say a Jew convinces a Goyim to have, relations with them. Well, the Goyim is held accountable for the death penalty, but the Jew is not.
Yeah, that's a weird halakha.
That's weird. And imagine if that actually, in a situation like that actually occurred and the Goyim was put to death from outside, from another nation. Don't you think that would cause problems with, like, say, like a king found out his son was put to death?
The idea is he caused the Jew to sin.
But why isn't the Jew called the Goyim to sin as well?
The Jew is also gets punished, but not for the same thing. He gets punished for a different thing, which is having intercourse with a non-Jew. Right. If it's public, it's even worse.
Right. This boils down. It boils everything down to the fact that whoever encourages people who want to become Jewish already to remain Noahide is ignorant of halakha.
Well, here's my thing. I know Messianics that were fully Torah observant, were pursuing understanding the halakha.
Messianics, you mean Chabadniks? Or?
Well, they were Messianics, not Messianic Chabadniks that followed Yeshu.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So, but they were Unitarian. They didn't believe in his deity. And I didn't see an issue with what they were doing, but because they were learning from Jews how to observe the Torah. But the issue became they got duped by some anti-missionaries to become Noahides, and they were so much better when they were Messianic, more kind and friendly and loving and more righteous. They became Noahides, and then they boast in things that are unrighteous now, and it's disgusting.
100%. I also have a similar experience.
Wow.
I've seen good Christians become crappy people by becoming Noahites. Like,
Okay, but maybe the problem is the fact that, like you said, they think that they only need to follow the 7 laws.
well, that's what the Rambam says. The Rambam says they should either keep the 7 laws or convert to Judaism, because they're not allowed to invent a religion for themselves. That means I'm going to modify this. I'm going to wear a kippah. I'm going to, now they make talesim, talitot. I don't even know what's proper nomenclature for that. With rounded edges, so you don't need tzitziot, and they call it a Noahide talis, and it has a rainbow on it. Oh, this. People are getting rich.
Wait, why exactly does it have the rounded edges?
Because the Arba Confos. What do you mean?
No, yeah, but why does it need to have a rounded edge? You can just have a
right.
normal
They're not chayiv. anyways, right? I guess.
Yeah, exactly. It wouldn't matter if it's rounded or not. They don't. Yeah.
You ever seen a Lubavitcher kapata?
Yeah.
They round
off how one side is rounded, yeah.
Rounded. You believe that? They round off the edge, or then it would be chayiv tzitzis.
Yeah.
There's actually, I don't know if it's a halacha, but it's brought down either by the Shulchan Aruch or the Rambam. It says that you shouldn't. It says, mamish, you shouldn't take a beged and round off the edges, so then you wouldn't have to put fringes on it. And Chabad does it. Because the kapata has 4 corners, just like a poncho, right? There aren't too many clothes nowadays that have 4 corners, right?
That's true.
I don't wear talis cut.
No, they can just. They could just very easily put scissors on them, and then hide it somewhere.
It'll look wacky then, no?
No, if you put them inside, you have a little compartment for them.
Interesting. It says, you know what? Like tzitziot, I don't think have to be white. No. Is it?
No, they're supposed to be the color of the garment.
Correct. The color of the beged, so then it could be black.
Yeah, you can have black tzitziot, exactly. Yeah.
Unless you have techelis.
Unless it's techelis, yeah, exactly.
But
if the garment itself is blue, then you cannot.
Black and blue. There we go. Come on. What other channel are we going to get this level of interesting Torah talk? Talking about how we should, I think you justify based on leaf neighbor, right? That why are you going to thrust mitzvot on someone who's not going to keep them? It's better to keep them dumb and ignorant. Well, the only example on how to accept converts in the Torah is the guy who comes to Hillel. And there's three examples, right? And he comes on an insincere basis. One, he comes saying, convert me to Judaism on the basis that I don't believe in Torah Shabbat Peh. Convert me on the basis that I learn Torah while I'm standing on one foot. And convert me on the basis that you make me the high priest.
Wait, Asher, just so you know. Asher.
Yeah.
Just so you know, if you want to know my opinion, I am more similar to Shama in this context.
Okay. There we go. Touche. Okay, because it says Hillel converts him, miyad, and then he teaches him Torah. I'm not anti-Shammai, by the way. But you're
not an anti-Shamite.
Anti-Shemite. So the idea that we go over by Hillel over Shammai appears nowhere in the Mishnah. You know this? Mm-hmm. It's a medrash that appears in Talmud Bavli. It may believe it, maybe Talmud Shammai also, but by Amoraim, like the story of the Baskol, right? That they heard a voice from heaven saying that we go over Hillel over Shammai. That's a medrash brought down by Amoraim. There is one story in the Mishnah of the guy who's, because according to Beit Shammai, you're supposed to be standing up when you say Shema. And then there's the guy who got robbed because he was sleeping and he was saying Shema laying down and not standing up. And it, like in the Mishnah, it uses that to make fun of Beit Shammai, like in one instance, but it doesn't say that we go by Beit Shammai over Hillel in the Mishnah. Now, the Mishnah is Torah Shabbat Peh. The idea of Elu ve'elu Dibur Chim Chaim is the idea. It's based on the idea that they're both the word of God, Beit Shammai and Beit Hillel. The only thing, we have ambiguous halachot, and we need our Rishonim to have a Masorah on which way to go. So, according to the Rif introduced the idea that we go, first of all, over Talmud Yerushalmi with Talmud Bavli. You know, there's no reason why we really shouldn't go over Talmud. I mean, really, the ideal seems to be more like Talmud Yerushalmi. I spoke to a student of Rabbi David Bar Chaim on why he's so big on Talmud Yerushalmi, and the reason why is because it's closer to the Mishnah, which is what I mean. The source is the Mishnah is Torah Sheba'al Peh. The Amoraim don't have the ability to add one halakha, although there are many halachot invented by Amoraim. Right? I mean, the whole counting nida, all these extra days, like a Ziva Gedolah, invented by Amoraim.
You're saying you should look more at the Yerushalmi because it's older?
Because they were the direct students of the Tanaim. It's closer. I mean, it's less of a gap than what you have in Bavel. And even the students of Eretz Yisrael made fun of the Torah, like of Bavel, and vice versa. Well, there was a war between the two, and it seems that the Babylonians won. Don't forget, the Babylonians were there from the time of Ezra, but they never left. You know, but the idea that now that we go by Talmud Bavli over Talmud Yerushalmi is not. I mean, it's accepted, but it's not in the core of halakha. It's whatever it's closer to the Mishnah. The halakha is that anyone who decides halakha outside of the Mishnah is a min, is an upper course, is a kofar. It's the Mishnahs, regardless. They're both using the same Mishnah, right? Because the Mishnah is the same, the Gemara is different. But the Amoraim introduced a lot more ideas, like metaphysical ideas, foreign ideas, that Talmud Yerushalmi didn't. I mean, Talmud Yerushalmi seems to be more pure, although Talmud Bavli covers the Mishnah more. That means they comment more on the Mishnah than Talmud Yerushalmi. And I hear Talmud Yerushalmi is incomplete, just to some extent. Anyways, guys, on that note, I gotta go.
What? Oh no.
Yeah. I mean, it's close to Shabbos. Anyways, guys.
Is Nerd here?
The what? Yeah, Nerd is here.
Nerd, are you here?
I think he fell asleep. All right, guys, you get benched.
Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
Okay, I'm going to call you in private, Nerd.